Okay, so I really love anime. Honestly, anime has provided me with a lot of entertainment, a lot of moral and life lessons along the way, and I've built a lot of friendships just based on someone saying that they like a certain anime, and I say, I've seen that, and then it's just kind of this instant bond. That anime bond you have with people is so cool. But there's unfortunately this weird kind of toxic side to anime that surrounds it that I feel is sort of holding it back from being even more popular. And that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. And what I thought I would do is break it into three very simple points so that we can follow and talk about it. The first point I'm just going to call a rival war. So, what's a rival war? A rival war is when you have a favorite anime, and which is fine. Like, it's great to have an anime that you love, that you buy merch for, that you make your profile photos on social media. It's just something you love. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have a favorite anime and then make it their life lesson to tell everyone else why their anime is better and why your favorite anime is worse. And I see it a lot of the time from a lot of the larger anime fandoms. So like One Piece, One Piece has been around for a long time. It has a huge fandom, and I have nothing against that fandom, but oftentimes I see in almost every edit that I find on social media, whether it's a Jujutsu Kaisen edit or a Demon Slayer edit, or whatever, some new gen anime. A lot of times there's One Piece fans in there who say, oh, this is trash, this is mid, this is poorly written, this is terrible, blah, 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 One Piece is better. And it's just littered throughout a lot of these edits or just, anime, whatever in general. And I just don't understand why we can't get to a point where we understand that, there's a lot of great anime. And anime is very subjective. If you sit down and say, what are the absolute best 5 anime of all time? You're obviously going to get people with different preferences, different answers, because people enjoy different things, right? People have different genres that they like. Something like Attack on Titan, I would consider one of the greatest pieces of fiction ever. But if someone else sits down and watches it and goes, I don't think this is for me, I certainly understand. Like, it's not for everybody. And so I think if we can get to a point where people just have that respect factor of, oh, you like Naruto, but I don't really like Naruto, but that's okay, because I get the merit of it. I understand why it's popular. Same thing with One Piece or Dragon Ball or whatever, And so that's one thing I see often that I feel is very unfortunate that people do. And I feel like if we could sort of cool it on that, it would make things a little bit better, especially for those people who have very obscure or very kind of rare tastes in anime that people have never heard of. It would make it a little easier for them, I think, to enjoy things. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I'm going to call just the newbie wall, or it's this idea that I think it's sort of hard to get into anime. I've been watching anime now for a number of years, but I'm not the most seasoned anime watcher. I haven't seen every anime out there. And so even a lot of times for me, even though I've seen a decent amount of anime, I'm hesitant in certain conversations because there's this weird thing that happens where when you say you like anime, people sort of start quizzing you on what you've seen. And there's this idea of sort of elitism and, oh, well, you haven't seen this? Oh, you haven't seen this? Oh, well, are you really an anime fan? And what I equate it to, honestly, is like finding a job nowadays. When you try and find a job nowadays, a lot of jobs want all this work experience, but how do you get the work experience if you can't work at the job, if that makes sense? And I sort of feel the same way with anime. How can you become this huge anime fan or get really far into anime if you don't start somewhere? If that list doesn't start very small with just watching 1 or 2 anime. And, I've had these experiences where I say, yeah, I like anime, and then they show me their list of the 100 anime that they've seen, and then I kind of feel bad that I've only seen, I don't know, like 10 to 15 anime. And I just think there's this elitism that exists where, people just sort of hate on newbies. And I feel like the people especially hate on newbies that are female in the space as well, and just treat them like they aren't an equal just because they haven't been watching anime since they were 10 years old or whatever. And so I think if people would just go a little easier on newbies and go, okay, even though you might have seen every anime that exists, some newbie might go, oh, I just watched, this random anime. And instead of going, oh, that's trash and blah, 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 you need to watch all this, just go, cool. What'd you like about it? What do you think you're going to watch next? And so that's point number 2. And point number 3, I'm going to call it purism. And again, to kind of use that elitism term, what I mean here is there's certain things that people think qualify someone as being an actual anime fan. One big thing that I think is really stupid is the sub versus dub debate. So when you watch an anime, you typically have two options, really. You're either going to watch it in sub, which means subtitled, which means you're going to watch it in probably Japanese or the original language, and then you're going to read subtitles. Or you're going to watch it dubbed, which is where you're going to watch it in your own language. So for me, it would be English. For maybe someone who's German, it would obviously be German. And honestly, I watch dubbed because I enjoy, hearing things in my own language. It's easier for me to follow. I can do stuff while it's in the background, not having to read subtitles. But there's this idea, of course, that when it's in the original language, you're getting more of a feel for the actual meaning of it, which I definitely understand. But I just don't understand the attitude that people have when someone says, I watch it in dubbed, and people just attack you for it. And so that would be one area of this. Another area of this, I think, would be the manga only people, or people that have read the manga and you're an anime only person. What that means is, most, or I guess all maybe, anime comes from a manga, which is a written kind of a comic book-ish version that people write first that then gets adapted into an anime, which is really cool. But for a lot of us, we don't always read the manga, we just watch the anime. And in a lot of comment sections that I've been a part of, people get really heated and feel like they have this title on their, chest that they are a manga reader. So they know what's going to happen. They tend to spoil things. They tend to take pride in spoiling things, which I think is really annoying. But again, there's this hate and this attitude of, oh, you only watch the anime, so you're not really a fan. So, if you take, I don't know, something like Demon Slayer, for instance, if you have read the manga and you've seen the anime, there's a lot of people who feel like that's a pure fan, or that's someone who, is really into it. And then if someone else just watches the anime, then a lot of times there is this attitude of, like, well, you're not a real fan of Demon Slayer, even though the person clearly is a fan of Demon Slayer. They've seen every episode so far. They have merch. They follow it. They love it. And, in general, I just feel like people are holding each other back in the anime community. And it isn't really necessary. And I feel like if we sort of knock down these walls, these were just 3 points that I just decided to go at random. I thought of off the top of my head. But I feel like if people would just sort of chill out and just let people be and enjoy what they enjoy, which is definitely happening over time. But I think it would create better fandoms, better experiences, especially for newbies. But let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are some other points maybe that I missed? But I would love to continue talking about anime because I really enjoy it. Who knows? Maybe someone will get snobby on me and say that I messed something up in this video. But I appreciate you guys watching.